Good morning. My name is Paul. I have a couple of quick announcements before we start. First off, if you're a visitor, welcome. We're glad to have you. We are the First Unitarian Church of Springfield, Missouri. If you don't like what you see today, please come back next week because it'll be completely different. Every Sunday is different, and we like it that way. We're still looking for a choir director, so if you know anybody, particularly teachers or retired teachers, or somebody in the music field, obviously, and if somebody here would like to apply for the job, we'd love it. The Soapbox Sunday is going to be August 30th. If you don't know what that means this is the soapbox. You've got 3 minutes. You can stand up here and rant and rave about anything you want to rant and rave about. There's a sign-up list over on that table by the kitchen. Sign up there. Think about what you want to talk about. You got till August 30th to do it. The first people on the list will get precedence as it goes down the list till we run out of time. So if you want to get on the list, go ahead and get on it, even if you're not sure what you want to talk about yet. There is going to be an auction in September, if you didn't know that. We are taking donations for the auction. Talk to Emily, who's sitting around here somewhere. I guess she's not. I saw her earlier. Or Roberta Whedon, who is, I don't see her either. Emily's here somewhere. Anyway, sign up for the auction, donate stuff, and that will be in September, and I think that's just about all I got in the way of announcements that are important to mention. So, take it all over there. Tuesday's voting day. Do it.
Thank you, Paul. On the back of the in your order service on the blue sheet, there are more announcements, and on the back side is some information about voting. I'd like to say good morning.
Good morning.
And I'd like to welcome you to First Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Lynn Schlunz, and I use she, her pronouns. I am your service leader today. Whether you are with us on site or on Zoom, whether it is your first time here or one of many, you are welcome. We hope you can stay for coffee, tea, and conversation after the service. Today is our friendly feast potluck, so please stay and join us. Whether you brought food or not, we will have plenty. Thank you to the book group for hosting today's meal. The chalice lighter in the sanctuary is Skylar. The chalice lighting words are A Fire in the Universe by Sean Trapp. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our smallness and our short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known.
My name is Colin, and I help with the children's program here at First UU. And I have an unusually exciting announcement for this Sunday. We have a new director of religious education here at First UU. I am so excited to introduce you to Carista Davis. Carista, we are so excited to have her on board. She comes to us with both a BA and an MA from MSU in Religious Studies, and is going to bring so many exciting things to our community. I also want to give a lot of thanks to the committee that helped with the hiring process. We have a bit of a niche position here in this in Springfield, and hiring is not easy. The hiring was led by Jennifer Sizemore, who worked tirelessly to make this process go through, helped with and I cannot fail to mention the rest of the committee: Lynn Schlunz, Neil Richardson, Reverend Michelle, and I helped a little bit. We are going to have a more formal and a bit of more of a to-do for Carista to welcome her in our homecoming service, which is August 23rd, I think. So you'll learn more about her, and we'll do a little more then. But for today, we've asked Carista to share our story, our Time for All Ages, with us. So we can go ahead with that.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I have been given the honor of getting to read the story today. If you didn't hear, my name is Carista, and I use she, her pronouns. Today we are going to be reading I Am in Charge of Celebrations by Bird Baylor, with illustrations by Peter Parnell. Sorry. Sometimes people ask me, aren't you lonely out there with just the desert around you? I guess they mean the bare grass, the yuccas, the cactus, and the rocks. I guess they mean the deep ravines, the hawk nests, and the cliffs, the coyote trails with winds around the hills. Lonely? I can't help laughing. When they ask me that, I always look at them surprised. I say, how could I be lonely? I'm in charge of the celebrations. Sometimes they don't believe me, but it's true, I am. I put myself in charge. I choose my own. Last year, I gave myself 108 celebrations, besides the ones they closed schools for. I cannot get by with only a few. Friend, I'll tell you how it works. I keep a notebook, and I write the date. And then I write about the celebrations. I'm very choosy about what goes in the book. It has to be something I plan to remember for the rest of my life. I can tell what's worth a celebration because your heart will pound, and you'll feel like you're standing on top of a mountain, and you'll catch your breath like you're breathing a new kind of air. Otherwise, I count it as just another average day. I told you I was choosy. Friend, I wish you could have been there for Dust Devil Day. But since you weren't, I'll tell you how it got to be my first real celebration. You can call them whirlwinds if you want to. Me, I think Dust Devils has a better sound. Well, anyway, I always stop to watch them. Here, everyone does. You know how they come from far away, moving up the flats, swirling and swaying, and falling and turning, picking up sticks and and feathers and dry tumbleweeds. Well, last March 11th, we were all going somewhere. I was in the back of a pickup truck when the Dust Devils started to gather. You could see they were giants. You'd swear they were calling their friends to come too. And they came dancing in time of their own windy music, and all started counting. We all started looking for more. They stopped the truck. We turned around and around, watching them all. There were 7. At a time like that, something goes kind of crazy in you. You have to run to meet them, yelling all the way. You have to whirl around like you were one of them, and you can't stop until you're falling down. And then all day you think how lucky you were to be there. Some of my best celebrations were sudden surprises like that. If you weren't outside at that exact moment, you'd miss them. I'd spent a lot of time outside myself, looking around. Once, I saw a triple rainbow. It ended in a canyon where I'd been the day before. I was halfway up a hill standing in a drizzle of rain. It was almost dark, but I wouldn't go in, because of the rainbows, of course. And there at the top of the hill, a jackrabbit was standing on its hind legs, perfectly still, standing straight at the same triple rainbow. I may be the only person in the world who's seen a rabbit standing in the mist quietly watching 3 rainbows. It was worth a celebration any time. I wrote it down and drew the hill, the rabbit, the rainbow, and me. Now, August 9th is Rainbow Celebration Day. I have Green Cloud Day too. Ask anybody and they'll tell you clouds aren't green. But late one winter afternoon, I saw this huge green cloud. It was not bluish green or grayish green or something else. This cloud was green. Green as a jungle parrot. And the strange thing was, it began to take a parrot shape. First, the wings, then the head and beak. High in the winter sky, that green bird flew. It didn't last more than a minute. You know how fast clouds can change. But I still remember how it looked. So I celebrate green clouds on February 6th. At times like that, I always think, what if I'd missed it? What if I'd been in the house? Or what if I hadn't looked up when I did? You can see I'm very lucky about things like that. And I was lucky on Coyote Day because out of all time it had to be one moment, only that certain coyote and I could meet. And we did. Friend, you should have been there too. I was following deer tracks, taking my time, bending down as I walked, kind of humming. I hum a lot when I'm alone. I looked up in time to see a young coyote trotting through the bush. She crossed in front of me. It was a windy day and she was going east. In that easy, silent way coyotes move, she pushed into the wind. I stood there, hardly breathing. I wish I could move that way. I was surprised to see her stop and turn and look at me. She seemed to think I was just another creature following the rocky trail. That's true, of course, I am. She didn't hurry. She wasn't afraid. I saw her eyes and she saw mine. That look held us together. Because of that, I never will feel quite the same again. So, on September 28th, I celebrate Coyote Day. Here's what I do. I walk the trail I walked that day, and I hum softly as I go. Finally, I unwrapped the feast I brought for her. Last time, it was 3 apples and some pumpkin seeds, and an ear of corn and some soft homemade ginger cookies. The next day, I happened to pass that way again. Coyote tracks went all the way around the rock where the food had been, and the food was gone. Next year, I'll make it even better. I'll bring an extra feast and I'll eat there too. Another one of my greatest celebrations is called the Time of Falling Stars. It lasts about a week in the middle of August, and I wait all year for those hot summer nights when the sky goes wild. You can call them meteor showers if you want to. Me, I like calling them falling stars. All that week, I sleep outside. I give my full attention to the sky. And every time a streak of light goes shooting, I feel my heart shoot out of me. One night, I saw a fireball that left a long, red, blazing trail across the sky. After it was gone, I stood there looking up, not quite believing what I'd seen. The strange thing was, I met a man who told me he had seen it too while he was laying by a campfire, 500 miles away. He said he did not sleep again that night. Suddenly, it seemed we were two spoken a language no one else could understand. Every August of my life, I think about that. Friend, I've saved my New Year's celebration for last. Mine is a little bit different from the one most people have. It comes in spring. To tell you the truth, I never did like my New Year started in January anyway. To me, it was just another winter day. I let my year begin when winter ends and the morning light comes earlier, the way it should. Then it feels like I started something new. I wait until the white-winged doves are back from Mexico, the wildflowers cover the hills, and my favorite cactus blooms. It always makes me think, I ought to bloom myself. And that's when I start to plan my New Year's celebration. I finally chose a day that is exactly right. Even the air has to be perfect, and the dirt has to feel good and warm on bare feet. Usually, it's a Saturday at the end of April. I have a drum that I beat to signal the day. Then I go wandering off, following all of my favorite trails to the places I like. I check how everything is doing. I spend the day admiring things. If the old desert tortoise I know from last year is out strolling around, I'll go his direction a while. I celebrate the horned toads and ravens and lizards and quail. And friend, it's not a bad party. Walking back home, kind of humming. Sometimes I think about those people who ask me if I was lonely here. I have to laugh out loud. All right, it is time for each of you to light your little chalices if you haven't already. And as you take them with you, remember, they represent the light and love of everyone here going with you. We will sing On Our Way to You now as you head back downstairs.
The prelude is Come Thou Font of Every Blessing, a traditional American melody arranged by Kenan Renfro, performed by Colleen. When I lived in Dallas, I attended a UU church that I taught RE for about 17 years altogether. 4 of the years was teaching the 9th grade coming of age class. And if you're not familiar with coming of age, it's a class that explores different beliefs, and it was meant to help the youth articulate their own beliefs. One of my favorite lessons was on transcendentalism. We had some big oak trees on the property, and we would take blankets and go lie underneath the trees and look at the sky. And we had a jar of quotes by transcendental authors. The youth would take turns reading a quote and then would reflect on the meaning of the quote to them. And I'd like to share a few examples with you as today's opening words. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. Walt Whitman. I had 3 pieces of limestone on my desk, but I was terrified to find that they required to be dusted daily, when the furniture of my mind was all undusted still, and I threw them out the window in disgust. Henry David Thoreau. I ask not for any crown, but that which all may win, nor try to conquer any world except the one within. Louisa May Alcott. Our hymn of the month for August is When the Summer Sun is Shining. It's number 66 in the gray hymnal. The words will also be on the screens. Colleen will play the melody through once before we sing. You are welcome to stand or remain seated as we sing together.
I'm Millie. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a member of the Pastoral Care Circle. As a community, we share joys and concerns to keep connected. Slips of paper are available at the greeters table for those in the sanctuary to use for joys and concerns. During the week, you may send your joys and concerns by email to pastoralcare@springfielduu.org or by leaving a voicemail on the church phone 417-883-3922. If you're on Zoom, please use the chat box now for sharing your joys and concerns. All of these joys and concerns will be included in the members' email on Tuesday. We honor each joy or concern with a lighted candle, a symbol of the love we as a community offer for each of these joys and concerns. This morning, Skylar will be lighting the candles. And now, as we begin this time of sharing, know that though we are in multiple physical spaces, we are together in beloved community. To begin, we hold in love all of us, those present and those absent. We light a candle for our church community. From Laura Parsons, it has been a joy to have had Colleen provide much of our music this summer and give Eva a break. Today is Colleen's last day for this summer. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you so much, Colleen. Yes, you mean a lot to this community. All right. All right, I think I'll check the chat box so I don't forget to do that. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat box. From Tamala, a joy. Much joy for the Lammas season. I don't know if I said that right? Yes. Okay. All right. Feel free to join Cups for a Lammas festival ritual today at 5 p.m. in the sanctuary. From Forrest, this has a date of last week, but if it wasn't done last week, we're going to do it now. I am about to start a new job starting shortly after moving. Lots of change at once. Concerned to make it through all the changes. From Eva, we can't have enough thanks for Colleen. We can't have too much. Many, many thanks to Colleen for giving us beautiful music this summer. From Emily, 3 years ago, our daughter, Grayson, left this plane of existence. She is missed daily and not forgotten. We honor the complex and heartbreaking struggles of our world. We light a candle for all who are impacted. In closing, For those joys and concerns that remain unspoken in our hearts, we light a candle. May we hold each of these joys and concerns in our hearts and minds. May our community of love ease sorrow and boost celebration. Let us now join together in 1 minute of shared silence, followed by Spirit of Life.
I see a concern on, or something on the chat box now from Jane. I'm sorry to interrupt your meditation there. I am grateful to find out through a picture online that my childhood home in Neenah, Wisconsin, received fixable damage. There was so much damage to the area, and I'm happy our house is still standing. Here is it all, Lord. So compassion, Lord, we sing, moving the hand, living life, shape of justice, roots holding on. We say,
On August 1st, 1818, Maria Mitchell was born in Nantucket, Massachusetts. She was a noted astronomer and in 1847 discovered the comet that is now called Mitchell's Comet. She worked for the American Nautical Almanac and the U.S. Coastal Survey. Although she never attended college, Vassar College appointed Mitchell as its first professor of astronomy and director of its observatory in 1865. She was the first woman elected to membership in the American Association for the Advancement of Science. She was a member of the American Philosophical Society and the American Association for the Advancement of Women. She had a reputation as a great teacher and used radical methods. And I think you'll enjoy this. Why they were considered radical is that she insisted that women could learn as much and as well as men. After a youthful disagreement with her Quaker meeting, she asserted her affinity with Unitarianism and attended the Unitarian Church in Nantucket. Maria Mitchell died on June 28, 1887, at the age of 68. We say in our church that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. What we mean is that we believe it is a blessing to be able to govern and support our religious community ourselves, to make possible by our generosity everything we dream of and do to live out our shared values. If electronic giving is your preferred method, or if you are on Zoom, virtual giving options are available via our website, springfielduu.org. The offertory is, and I meant to ask how to pronounce this word, Reflection on Hyfrodal by Roland Richard, arranged by Dawn Phillips, performed by Colleen.
Good morning. My name is Tate Aldrich. I am a short, white, bald guy. I'm wearing a cream-colored shirt today. I work at MSU, where I am the Graduate Program Director for English Education, and my research lies in translating 19th century American philosophy into 21st century pedagogical terms for teachers. And for that reason, I'm honored to have been asked to give today's message. And like Michelle did once, the covers of the books that I'm citing are over there on the whiteboard, including the titles kind of gunked up the presentation. If you know anything about academic titles, they're pretty long. I forgot to include this one, though, if you're interested. It's The Ethics of Oneness, Emerson, Whitman, and the Bhagavad Gita. The theme for the month of August is road trip. And over the next couple of weeks, the Reverend Michelle will steer us through space and time from the indelible impact of our fledgling nation's Unitarian titans through the work of others in Philadelphia and Chicago, and eventually delivering us to the present moment and all its potential here in Springfield, Missouri. I have been asked to commence our road trip by sharing with you, in the most condensed form humanly possible, I promise, the history of whose work I study at MSU, the Transcendentalists of Concord and Boston, Massachusetts. So let's start here. What the heck is American Transcendentalism? Well, it is an early 19th century literary, political, and philosophical movement that, by definition, resisted defining. That makes it tough for historians. And for that reason, they mainly focus on the religious or patriotic rhetoric of the New England scholars and activists who, for the first time in history, were asking themselves, what does it mean to be an American? And how can we be better than those whose tyranny we fought so hard to escape? For me, historian Samuel Eliot Morrison's definition of American transcendentalism feels truest. Transcendentalism, he writes, was an attempt to make Americans worthy of their independence. Now, I'm guessing that definition is new for many of us, because even as a UU congregation, it is too easy for us to receive readily the disingenuous caricatures of historical figures, the transcendentalists as simply starry-eyed, self-involved, and apolitical. Today, I'd like to dispel you of those caricatures, and I'd like to invite you to consider this question. As Unitarian Universalists, how can we live in ways more deserving of our ancestors? And I don't mean all of our ancestors, of course. I mean only the exceptional ones. So, let's meet some of our exceptional UU ancestors, and let's meet them with the historical perspective-taking generosity that they deserve. And let's start first with Henry David Thoreau. You've likely been taught that old Henry was a cantankerous, solipsistic hermit. But that image cannot be more inaccurate. Henry David Thoreau was a politically engaged and deeply sensitive man. And like nearly all of the American transcendentalists, Thoreau was a classroom teacher. He learned the art of teaching from his mentor, the Unitarian minister Orestes Brownson, who understood that nurturing the goodness innate in all children is the redemptive work of every generation. As a teacher, Thoreau enjoyed taking his students on field trips around Concord's woodlots and inviting them to imagine the experiences of its indigenous peoples. He often babysat, taking little children like Louisa May Alcott out for boat rides on Walden Pond, playing his hand-carved flute and dancing jigs for their amusement. Eventually, though, he was fired from teaching, when famously he refused to administer corporal punishment or to commit the acts of corrective violence against the children in his charge. And what follows is history. Thoreau's 2-year-long stay in his cramped cabin at Walden Pond that began on the 4th of July, 1845. Packaged in high school English classes as an experiment in human isolation, his stay is more accurately packaged as an experiment in human relations. In Walden's Visitors chapter, yes, there's a chapter called Visitors, he recounts he recounts for readers the people with whom he interacts during those 2 years. Among them are reformers, farmers, businessmen, children, and runaway slaves whom Thoreau helps to escape toward the North Star on the Underground Railroad. Thoreau even hosts the Anti-Slavery Society's annual meeting at his cabin in August 1846 during his stay there. And these woods were far from uncharted territory. In fact, it was in the wake of Concord's freed slaves that he built his famous cabin. Freed slaves like Cato, Zilpha, Brister, and Fenda, who lived in the woodlots by Walden Pond to escape the country's nascent wage economy. For those reasons, Thoreau's famous experiment is in a tradition of liberatory resistance. So when people talk about Thoreau going it alone with nothing but his axe, correct them. He went into the woods to reorient himself in place and time among the web of interconnections, even interspecies connections, that require all of our attention. Thoreau insisted that everything, the frogs, birds, trees, winds, rains, neighbors, outsiders, and even the deceased, constitute our current moment and inform our moral duties. In other words, the expansive and inclusive qualities of Thoreau's social network established an equity of presence even among the voiceless. From this web of relations emerged a new sense of justice, one that is never unidirectional. What is right is only ever what repairs. And he borrowed the axe from Bronson Alcott. And you should know Bronson Alcott also gave Thoreau the cold that eventually killed him. So generous, maybe too generous. And a caricature persists of Bronson Alcott too, a clownish idealist known for dragging his family off to crazy utopian communities. Like the others, he was a teacher who directed the Progressive Temple School in Boston from 1834 to 1838, along with Elizabeth Peabody, championing a radical conversation style that centered students' interpretations, curiosities, and tenderness. And he gave the inimitable genius Margaret Fuller her first teaching gig. And like Thoreau, he also had unwavering opinions about corporal punishment. But instead of quitting on the spot, Alcott ordered the children to beat him. And when administering those beatings brought the children to tears themselves, no one ever misbehaved again. Alcott published Conversations with Children on the Gospel in 1836, a book-length transcription of his classroom discussions about the Bible. In this text, children arrive at their own unadulterated interpretations of Jesus as a moral philosopher, of right doing and wrongdoing, and of an unimpeachable, divinely inspired sympathy. For Alcott, it was evidence of his belief in children's intuitive wisdom and in their divine inner light. But for others in Boston, it was evidence of scandalous malpractice, along with Alcott's racially integrated student roster, and ultimately it led to the closing of the Temple School. It's also worth noting that Bronson Alcott spent a night in the Concord jail first, 3 years before Thoreau did in 1846, in protest of expanding slave territories. The caricature of Margaret Fuller is equally erroneous. One of our country's earliest feminists, the author of The Great Lawsuit, Man versus Men, Woman versus Women, she advocated for gender equality in education, property, and voting rights. She is often cast as brainy and blue-blooded, like Emerson. But she was so much more than that. Like her compatriots, she was a woman of action. As a journalist for Horace Greeley's New York Tribune, she investigated the mistreatment of the city's many unhoused and its female inmates at Sing Sing Prison in 1844 and 1845. Fuller facilitated women's-only adult learning classes, exclusive parlor talks for the wide demographic that society had starved of stimulating, high-minded dialogue about art, literature, and philosophy. And lastly, she was our country's first international wartime correspondent reporting from the internecine Italian Revolution in 1847. And speaking of Emerson, yes, the man was human, despite what the caricature of his otherworldly, sagacious aura might have you believe. And like any other human, he knew grief in all its destabilizing madness. For example, there were the deaths of his first wife, Ellen, and his son, Waldo, both of whom he disinterred or dug up during his bereavement for one last look at their corporeal forms. And he experienced the relatable complexities of human affairs. Nearly all historians concede that he and Margaret Fuller had a palpably charged emotional affair, one which delivered the friends to literary history's most awkward and juicy "what are we" conversations. "You may be the light," the fed-up Fuller told the philosopher, "but I am the fire." When she died, when her ship sank on its return voyage from Italy, he said only, despondently, "I have lost my audience." Emerson oversaw the compassionate care of his intellectually disabled brother, Buckley, too. But above all else, he craved wonder and embraced humility. traveling the world, France, Italy, Egypt, and meeting intimately influential intellectuals from John Adams to John Muir, and yes, that includes Abraham Lincoln at the White House in 1862, he was enamored with discourse, imagining his home in Concord as a friendly retreat for every celebrated thinker in his expanding orbit. And this is because Emerson believed that we can only be our best and most authentic selves when we address the divine that resides in others, the oversoul within their souls, with the respect it deserves. This intensely present posture towards such ordinary exchanges is what Emerson scholars often call everyday democracy, or the banal democracy that happens all the time on a local scale when we talk with and listen to our neighbors, guided by the virtues of equality, dignity, and respect. And we today neglect everyday democracy at our own peril. Said differently, Emerson believed that conversation offers us a liminal experience in which the boundaries of self and nature evaporate, and we experience an unusual sense of both harmony and elevation. And the greater the diversity among the conversation's contributors, Emerson argued, the richer the harmony. After all, our differences are not our obstacles. They are, in fact, the Transcendentalists believed, our greatest resource. So in truth, the American Transcendentalists were not a loose band of self-indulgent optimists. They were instead a group of morally concerned citizens whose ethical orientation inspired courageous acts of social justice in all directions. Yes, they vehemently opposed slavery. Not only did Emerson boycott the segregated lyceums on his lecturing circuit, he often spoke alongside ardent abolitionists like William Lloyd Garrison and Wendell Phillips in their denouncing the institution of slavery. Transcendentalists and Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, too, lectured at Adelphic Union assemblies and became a member of the Secret Six, who helped fund John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. Abolitionist newspapers like The Liberator and North Star published Transcendentalist work, like Alcott's Conversation with Children, and many Transcendentalists were present and whipping up the crowd in the 1854 Boston riot to free the fugitive slave Anthony Burns. In fact, Alcott was nearly shot in the melee. And yes, they questioned philanthropy. They questioned the rich who prop up themselves on the self-serving performance of altruism, when instead of asking for your money, those same members of the wealthy class in their businesses could just give their own money away. And yes, they thought critically of a blinkered veneration of voting. In his 1854 essay, Slavery in Massachusetts, Thoreau famously wrote this, bear with me: "The fate of the country does not depend on how you vote at the polls. The worst man is as strong as the best at that game. It does not depend on what kind of paper you drop into the ballot box once a year, but on what kind of man you drop from your chamber into the street every morning." Our exceptional ancestors were indeed the apostles of everyday democracy. So again, I ask, as Unitarian Universalists, how can we live in ways more deserving of our ancestors? If I asked Emerson that question from this pulpit, I think he'd be confused. I think he'd wonder why we are so inclined to quote him and not William Ellery Channing, the Unitarian minister who, during his famous Baltimore sermon, implored his Christian parishioners to never surrender their God-given rationalism to any church. Or Thomas Starr King, the Universalist preacher who during the Civil War earned the title the orator who saved the nation. I think he would encourage us in our current moment to reclaim the religious and patriotic rhetoric to which it seems only one political stripe of Americans feel rightfully endowed. to speak a language that truly widens our circles, stretches not just our moral imaginations, but others too, and to submit to the relationally bound realities of our shared democratic existence. I believe he'd say that nowadays we care about so much, but we care for too little. Because caring is an action so full of risk and reward, and our country's early Unitarians, the Transcendentalists, remain emblems of that sacred fact today. The interlude is A Whole New World by Alan Menken, arranged by Mark Hayes, performed by Colleen.
Our closing words are by George G. Brooks. May the love that gives to life its beauty, the reverence that gives to life its sacredness, and the purposes that give to life its deep significance be strong within each of us and lead us into ever deepening relationships with all of life. Blessed be and amen. Our final hymn this morning is To Mercy, Pity, Peace, and Love. It's number 93 in the gray hymnal. The words will be on the screens. Colleen will play the tune once through before we sing, and you are welcome to stand or remain seated. We will now extinguish our communal and personal chalices and close with our unison sending words. Our service here is ending. Our service to the world begins anew.